Hello friends, welcome to Literary Hub. In today's class, we're going to discuss the remaining literary devices. Already in the previous class, we have discussed few literary devices. Let's continue the class without wasting time. So coming to the first one in this video, it is cumulative sentence. A cumulative sentence, or it's also known as loose sentence, is one that starts with an independent clause but then has additional or modifying clauses. They're often used for contextual or clarifying detail. This may sound complex, but even I ran to the store to buy milk, bread, and toilet paper as a cumulative sentence because the first clause, I ran to the store, you can see I ran to the store, is a complete sentence. I ran to the store. There is a meaning in the sentence, a complete sentence. While the rest tells us extra information about your run to the store, why the boy is running to the store. So it gives us the extra information. When such kind of sentences have been observed, those kind of sentences are known as cumulative sentences. Cumulative sentences are nothing but the sentence which contains meaning, but then adding extra information to the given sentence is nothing but cumulative sentence. So examples you can see here. It was a large bottle of Gin Albert Cousins had brought to the party. Yes, but it was in no way large enough to fill all the cups, and in certain cases, to fill them many times over for the more than 100 guests, some of whom were dancing not 4 feet in front of him. Right, so this is one of the part in a story. Right, so what happened here? There is a meaning in the sentence which was given initially, but then adding extra information to that sentence is nothing but it comes under the cumulative sentence. This is one of the literary aspect. Let's get into the another one. Dramatic irony. What is dramatic irony? Dramatic irony is when the readers know more about the situation going on than at last one of the characters involved, isn't it? So this creates a difference between the ways the audience and the characters perceive in unfolding events. For instance, if we know that one character is having an affair, when that character speaks to their spouse, we will pick up on the lies and double meanings of the words, while the spouse may take them of face value. Example, in Titanic, the audience knows from the beginning of the movie that the boat will sink. This creates dry humor when characters remark on the safety of the ship. Here it's dramatic irony in the sense what already people knows that what is the fact, but then pretending to that if he or she starts speaking, though it is known, isn't it? What it creates a kind of humor. So here is an example about the Titanic. In Titanic, so what happened in that movie? We know that ship sinks, but then they'll take the safety measures, which makes the audience to be humor at that particular time, right? So these kind of things comes under dramatic irony. Let's get into another one. Euphemism. Euphemism is an indirect, polite way of describing something too inappropriate or awkward to address directly. However, most people will still understand the truth about what's happening. Though things which we see around, though we know that it's not so good, it's not so pretty, but then we start describing, right? Such kind of things comes under euphemism. So when an elderly person, example, you can see when an elderly person is forced to retire, some might say they are being put out to pasture. Right, this is one of the example of euphemism. Though things doesn't look good, but we start describing. That is known as euphemism. Then coming to the exposition. This is another literary term. Exposition is when the narrative provides background information in order to help the reader understand what's going on. Though here, for example, it's nothing but matter is available on the screen, but then I've added my voice at the background, right? Which helps the reader or listener to understand the concept very clearly, right? So such kind of things comes under exposition. When used in conjunction with description and dialogue, the literary device provides a richer understanding of the characters, settings, and events. Be careful though, too much exposition will quickly become boring, thus undercutting the emotional impact of your work. right? Exposition in the sense whatever it is displayed on the screen, giving background, isn't it? And that too sometimes it was so exposition gives boring to the people who are observing. Why? Because the suspense, if it has been revealed earlier, definitely the reader becomes boring. He doesn't like to read the remaining part, right? So this comes under exposition. So here is an example from a story that the Dursley had everything they wanted, but they also had a secret, and the greatest fear was that somebody would discover it. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, J.K. Rowling, these are the examples of this exposition. Hope you're clear. Let's get into the next literary term. It's all about foreshadowing. So, foreshadowing is when the author hints at events yet to come in a story, similar to flashbacks, and often used in conjunction with them. This technique is also used to create tension or suspense, giving reader just enough breadcrumbs to keep them hungry for more, isn't it? So what happened? Foreshadowing is when other hints. So what happened? A small hint is given, isn't it? So what happened if a hint is given and if you say that something is there? I just want to discuss an important issue. Actually, it is all about your personal things. And if I stop in between, definitely what happened? It creates a doubt in the mind, isn't it? So what happened? It creates a suspense. It creates suspense to the people who are listening to us, right? So that kind of things which create suspense, where the hint is given, and if we stop discussing about that, so what happened? It makes the listener to think more about that. Such kind of things comes under foreshadowing. Example: one popular method of foreshadowing is through partial reveals. The narrator leaves out key facts to prompt readers' curiosity. Jeffrey Eugenides does this in the Virgin Suicides. On the morning the last lesbian daughter took her turn at suicide. It was Mary this time, on sleeping pills like this. And the two paramedics arrived at the house knowing exactly where the knife drawer was and the gas oven, and the beam in the basement from which it was possible to tie a rope. So this it is like a similar term like flashbangs, right? So now let's get into the another one, that is like a another one. So flashbangs, a frame story is any part of the story that frames another part of it. So here foreshadowing in the sense what, giving a hint, expecting the reader to think about the future, and which creates a suspense to the reader or to the listener. Here, flashback in the sense in a story. So, what one character will be telling about one or the other flashback. Sometimes, when we are discussing with our beloved one or our friends and all, so what happened? We start discussing about our childhood and all. So, what happened here? We start saying about the flashback. So, when such kind of situation has been observed in the poetry part or in the prose part, then the literary term comes under flashbacks. So, let us see the definition of this flashbacks. A frame story is any part of the story that frames another part of it, such as one character telling another about their past, or someone uncovering a diary or a series of news articles that then tell the readers what happened. Since the frame story supports the rest of the plot, it's mainly used at the beginning, at the end of the narrative, or in small interludes between chapters or short stories. Example: In the Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Quath is telling chronicle the story of his life over the span of 3 days. Right? This is one of the example of flashback. So now let's get into another literary term. So hyperbole. Generally we use this, right? So hyperbole is an exaggerated. So exaggerated in the sense suddenly some kind of feelings which come, sudden feelings, right? Suddenly we'll become emotional. Suddenly we'll shout at the things, right? So hyperbole is an exaggerated statement that emphasizes the significance, the statement actual meaning. When a friend says, "Oh my god, I haven't seen you in a million years," that's hyperbole. So you have seen your friend in your childhood, and now at present, suddenly you have seen. So, oh my god, you say that, hooray, I've seen my friend. You didn't expect that the India will the match. So India won. So hooray. So what happened here? Sudden feelings which has come. So those comes under this hyperbole. For example, so at the beginning of Bogota was a remote lugubrious city wherein insomniac rain had been falling since the beginning of the 16th century, living to tell the tale by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. So this is one of the story where the hyperbole is created in that. Such a kind of situation has been created in that. Let's get into another one, that is hypophora. Hypophora is much like a rhetorical question wherein someone asks question that doesn't require an answer. Sometimes we will be observing that our friends and relatives, what happen, they start speaking to us, but then before we give an answer, in their question itself there will be the answer, right? Such kind of questions where the answer is hidden, those kind of questions comes under hypophora. However, in hypophora, the person raises a question and answers it immediately themselves. Hence the prefix hypo means under or before. That means hidden answer is over there. It's often used when characters are reasoning something aloud. Example: do you always watch for the longest days of the year and then miss it? Answer is there, you'll watch it but you'll miss it. There's no question at all. It's like a question, but then answer is hidden in the question. So what, listener no need to answer the question. Such kind of things, if it has been observed, then it is known as hypophora. Always watch for the longest day in the year and then miss it. Answer is there, question is there. So Tracy in the Great Gatsby. So these kind of things comes under hypophora. Hope you are clear with this literary devices. Let's see few more literary devices in the coming classes. So if you have not seen the previous video, please watch it and try to understand the literary devices which has been discussed in the previous video. Hope we have covered 20 literary devices altogether, that part 1 and part 2. Thank you. Have a nice day.